All right, everybody, we are back with our Friday review here on the Cabral Concept. Can't wait to get into today's show. Love being able to bring you what I call the best of the week. So we're going to go over a podcast recap just from the different shows you may have missed if you're not tuning in daily. I want to go over a product review. One, an oldie but a goodie that's been renamed. I want to make sure that you're aware of it. It's actually for ages 3 years old and up, and we'll share all of the different deficiencies and toxicities you have at a super simple level. So it's meant for everyone. Then I want to go through an online environmental allergy-based company. I'm actually going to give you two of them. Something that I wish I had back in the day because it makes allergies so much easier as you're looking for the root cause, which we'll talk a little bit about as well. And then two research studies, one specifically on caffeine and coffee, meaning can you get the benefits of coffee with just caffeine and vice versa? So a new study that I wanted to share with you here. And the last one is something that builds up calcium deposits in the arteries that goes beyond inflammation and cholesterol. So really important stuff here today. Let's dive right into the show. We just celebrated Christmas, at least in my household. If you celebrate Christmas or you're celebrating Hanukkah right now, I hope that you are enjoying the holiday season with your family and loved ones. I know that I am. It's one of my favorite times of the year, especially this week between Christmas and New Year's. I get to usually spend it in Maine. So some seasonally cold weather, and maybe even get a ski trip out of it as well with my daughter. So excited about that. Just wanted to wish you and your family the absolute best this coming year as well. And of course, hopefully a little bit of downtime during the holidays. This week, if you missed any of the shows, on Monday, we went over how to build a strong character that people will respect. This was a fun one. I was able to I like taking knowledge and wisdom from wherever I could find it. And this is actually on it's strange, but it goes to like cowboy ethic, almost like I study martial arts. And so it's like you look at martial arts, morals and ethic and the samurai, and this is the same for cowboy-based ethic. And so what I did was I took the ones that I thought all of us could benefit from and the great words to live by. So definitely check out that show. That's episode 3244. But of course, the easiest way is to find all back shows are at stephencabral.com/podcasts. All right, Tuesday's show is should you avoid vitamin C after a workout? And if so, how much is too much? All right, number 3 or Wednesday's show is intermittent fasting has been proven to lower inflammation, and here's how. So you might have been hearing about all the benefits over the last couple of years of intermittent fasting, but do you actually know the science behind how it works? Because it's pretty amazing. It doesn't work on just one facet of your body, and that's why it's so powerful for so many different people. And then yesterday's show was how this one form of exercise slows the aging process. So a little bit of a paradox in there, meaning like why this exercise can actually increase oxidative stress, but in the long run, it actually stops and slows oxidative stress, and that is why it slows and reverses the aging process. So a lot of fun shows this week. I hope you enjoy them. As always, every single Friday, I give you the recap, and then we move into typically a product review and then a book review. This week, it's going to be 2 product reviews, and then we'll get into our 2 research studies that we always do. All right, so that first product this week is the oldie but the goodie. And if you haven't heard about it and you are looking for the absolute best way to kick your health off this new year for both children and adults, it is the Vita-Min Tox Test. It used to be called the starter kit. It's the same thing, but we wanted to make it easier for like, what are you actually getting? So you're getting to understand your vitamin levels, your mineral levels, if you're deficient in either or too much of either, your toxicity levels in terms of heavy metals and gut health, right? So toxicity in terms of gut health, meaning candida overgrowth or bacterial overgrowth. And here's the reason why so many people love this test is that it's easy to complete. It is a hair tissue mineral analysis sample. You've heard me talk about the validity and the science behind that, as well as a candida metabolic and vitamins test. And that is a simple urine-based sample first thing in the morning. That's why it's so easy. So my daughters will do this. My wife and I will do this. And what is it? Okay, simple morning urine sample, send it to the lab, prepaid mailer inside of it. Simple hair sample, prepaid mailer, send it to the lab, and get all your vitamin mineral levels, your heavy metals, and your gut health. So it's pretty remarkable. It's simple to do. There's no needles, there's no blood work. And now you actually know if your diet and or supplementation is supplying you with everything you need. So it's a great way to look for all the different imbalances that you may have if you don't want to run the Big Five. The Big Five includes this starter kit, and it also looks at food sensitivities, hormones, thyroid, inflammation, and so much more. So the Big Five is always the best, but this right here is the second best and so easy to use with kids. That is why I love this one. And you can add on that at-home food sensitivity test. So check that out. I know this week too, there's some special deals, but I don't want to talk about them because if you listen to the show in the future, of course, those are now gone. But you can head on over to stephencabral.com/shop. That takes you over to Equilife. Equilife is the functional medicine and integrative health, our virtual practice, shipping these labs all over the world and helping people, hundreds of thousands of people every single year in the practice. So check that out. This is called the Vita-Min Tox Test, formerly called the Starter Kit. You can call it whatever you want. Honestly, that's semantics. Check this out, or the Big Five, especially for the best pricing ever that you will see the entire year happening this week. Okay, now the next one I wanted to give you is an at-home environmental allergen test. This I have been waiting. I've been waiting about 2 years to share this with you because I like to make sure that the science has been there, but I want to make sure that the companies that are carrying this out are actually fulfilling on their promise. And the truth is they are. I now know multiple people that have used these two companies. I have no affiliation with either one of these companies, but they've used these companies to actually run their at-home lab test. So it's typically a finger prick, couple drops of blood on a card, just like you would run a vitamin D lab test or your hormones or anything like that, or some of your hormones, because some are done with saliva. Let's say you're like your thyroid. And you get back a panel of anywhere from 40 or more environmental allergens that you either have no reaction to, mild, moderate, or high. So, but that's great because you know that I love at-home lab testing. I promote all of the best brands. But here's what they also do. You no longer need to get allergy shots like I used to do when I was a kid. Not only did I get them when I was a kid, I also got them when I was around 18, 19, 20 years old when I was trying to just empty my rain barrel in general. Well, here's the deal. Now they have real great science behind what is called sublingual immunotherapy. All it is sublingual drops as to where you build up your tolerance to these environmental allergens like dust, mold, grass, pollen, cats, dogs, etc. Right? Like anything environmental based. So this is really great because now you can take the test at home, get sent into a team, just like we have our team at Equilife, but it's a different company. I'm going to give you the two companies in a moment, and I'll link them up at stephencabral.com/3248. I can also link up on the lab test. I just can't link up nutritional supplements ever. Just the FDA, FTC doesn't allow that. So here's the nice thing though. They customize your sublingual drops for you. And sublingual just means that you get drops and you put them under your tongue. And you're doing that as to whatever your directions say, but typically doing that, maybe it's once a week, maybe it's every day based on your protocol to gradually desensitize your immune system to things like grass, mold, pollen, dust, etc. Right? So it's pretty fantastic. Now, again, if you have a lot of environmental allergens, you want to make sure that you don't have gut health issues like using the Vita-Min Tox Test. You don't have a lot of other things that are filling up the rain barrel, right? Like heavy metals, etc. So you want to work on those, but there's nothing wrong with being able to then desensitize these environmental based allergens. So I know multiple people have done it now. They've had great success. And the great thing is, again, I can't say what the companies are always doing in terms of their added ingredients, but unlike the injections, you are not getting a lot of the heavy metals. You're not getting the heavy metals. Like that's the great thing. So again, you can always ask for all the other ingredients because they might be changing, whoever knows. But the two companies are called GetCureX and the other one is called Nectar. So GetCureX and Nectar, two competing companies. Those are the two biggest ones. GetCureX says it's worked with over 50,000 individuals. Nectar says it's worked with over 100,000 individuals. GetCureX seems to take insurance, or at least HSA and FSA. Nectar doesn't look like it does. Now, I've heard they both work exceptionally well. They're using the same science, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. It's more just delivery of the product. The people that I know used Nectar. That doesn't mean you only have to use Nectar, but I can vouch for them, saying that they got the test, they got their sublingual drops. It was easy. And so check them out, check the pricing, see what might work for you. But truthfully, if I didn't have to go for allergy shots, like I don't anymore, of course, but when I was a kid, this would have been fantastic. So remember, environmental allergies are often the sign of the rain barrel overflowing and being very Th2 dominant. People are Th2 dominant because of viral-based issues, immunodeficiency issues, methylated B vitamin issues, low vitamin C, adrenal-based issues, like heavy metals, gut health. So there's lots of issues as to why your body's just reacting to all these things in the environment. If you haven't read The Rain Barrel Effect, read The Rain Barrel Effect. It'll kind of walk you through the process as to how to eventually heal without having to use all the sublingual drops in the first place. But nothing wrong with that. And again, I love the best of all types of science. I wanted to bring that to you and obviously let us know your success. All right. So, and of course, if you've used Get Curix or Nectar, write in the comments. Just let us know how you liked it. 2 research studies now to bring you today. The first one I want to bring you is on caffeine and coffee. Okay. I've done lots of shows on coffee. We'll try to link up a couple at stephencabral.com/3248. That's where I'll link up Get Curix, Nectar. I'll link up the Vita-Min Tox Test, and I'll link up this research. So again, stephencabral.com/3248. So lots of studies on coffee. I'll try to link some of those up as well. But basically all the studies that we look at in terms of autophagy and anti-aging and the benefits of coffee don't necessarily come from the caffeine, because you get the same benefits from decaf. So really what it comes from is the polyphenols. Those are antioxidants from nature that help buffer oxidative stress, which is part of the aging and inflammation process that creates free radicals. So decaffeinated coffee, as long as it's organic Swiss water processed like Equalife makes or other great brands, you're good. But I always, again, keep an open mind. And there seems to be some validity to some caffeine per day. Now, remember, if you have anxiety, if you have adrenal issues, if you have high cortisol, if you're super stressed, you don't want to be taking in caffeine. You just don't. But not everybody is, right? And some people, it seems, can actually benefit from the equivalent to about 1 to 2 cups of coffee per day, of course, before noon. Here's the research. This is out of the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism. All right, regularly consuming 3 cups of coffee or 200 to 300 milligrams of caffeine may protect you from developing multiple cardiometabolic diseases, including type 2 diabetes, coronary heart disease, and stroke, compared with people who consume less than 100 milligrams of caffeine per day. Moderate consumers had more than 40% lower risk. That's a huge lower risk. 40% is that's incredible. People with a single cardiometabolic disease may have a 2-fold higher all-cause mortality risk than those who are free of any cardiometabolic diseases, which again, another incredible statistic. If you only have a single cardiometabolic issue, call it diabetes, call it some type of heart disease, high blood pressure, etc. A 2x, right? 2-fold, twice as much, twice as likely risk of mortality. People with multiple cardiometabolic diseases may have almost a 4 to 7 times higher risk of all-cause mortality. So the bottom line is this. I've said this before. We humans, we only die early from a few main reasons: cardiovascular, blood pressure, stroke, type 2 diabetes, cancer, or Alzheimer's. All right. It's going to be really difficult to get Alzheimer's, if you don't have any cardiovascular issues and you don't have high blood sugar. It's going to be really challenging. People can pull it off, but it's difficult, right? So what does it really mean? Okay, don't get cardiovascular issues, don't get blood sugar issues. And if you don't have those, probably not going to have high blood pressure. It's definitely possible to have high blood pressure for other reasons as well. But usually you then have cardio issues, right? And so then cancer is the wild card. And again, like that is why I wrote the huge article at stephencabral.com/cancer. By the way, the article is completely free. It's an enormous document of really all the major things that I've learned researching cancer over the last, call it a decade plus. Check it out. Again, I'm not giving you medical advice, but it's everything. Like it is like all the major things to check out, because healthy people can get cancer, unfortunately. They can. Part of it is, yes, there's a genetic predisposition. Part of it is we don't always know what we're exposed to in the environment. It's crazy. But anyway, so what we can control though, we can absolutely control a lot of the cardiometabolic. You just talked about high blood pressure, cardio, and type 2 diabetes. So we can do that. And here's the nice thing. They said 3 cups of coffee a day, but that would mean that every cup of coffee is 100 milligrams. A small coffee at Starbucks is 272 milligrams of caffeine. A small coffee at Dunkin' Donuts is 140 milligrams of caffeine. So it's really 2 cups of coffee. In their study, they might have been doing 100 milligrams, like a instant lower caffeine coffee. Okay, fine. But 200 to 300 milligrams, that's about the max per day that anyone really wants to take in of caffeine, 200 to 300 milligrams. Of course, not for pregnancy, not for children, etc. Not all the things I talked about before, anxiety, high stress, etc. All right. But here's the thing. Yeah, for some people, it can actually improve potentially cardiometabolic, as well as it's been studied for the brain too. So that's why I don't want to discount this. I don't think that caffeine is necessarily bad for everyone. Now, if it raises your heart rate 5 to 10 points for an hour or two after you drink it, that's not good. If it makes you anxious, that's not good. But for many people, it does not have any of that effect. So what I wanted to share with you is, as always, I don't recommend drinking caffeine on an empty stomach first thing in the morning. Allow your body to ease into the day, have some breakfast, then have your coffee with it, like most cultures from around the world always did. So hopefully this was helpful. I'll link up the study. I could talk about this one study over and over and go into all the nuances and all that. But here's the thing. For most people, a cup of coffee in the morning, totally fine. And then if they want some decaf later, they can do some decaf and they're going to get a lot of protective benefits. Now, if you want to really look at all the protective benefits, matcha green tea or green tea, even better. But I'm not a tea kind of guy, but if you are, I'm not going to say it's not even better. It is. The ECGC and all the protective benefits, it's fantastic. All right. Next up is, and last up is our study on calcium buildup. Now, this study, I literally have a stack of studies that I can pull for you every single week, but I just worked with one of my private wellness clients about an hour and 14 minutes ago. All right, so an hour and 14 minutes ago, just worked with them. They're an amazing human being. They are helping so many people around the world. I'm very fortunate to be able to be a practitioner for many other health practitioners. So a doctor of naturopathy for many other doctors. And that is one of my favorite things to do. I love being able to help other practitioners because they then help hundreds to thousands of other people per year. So it's pretty amazing. It's like it's a cheat code to be able to help more and more people. If I can help them, even if I can just help them stay healthier longer and alive longer and they practice longer, they help more people. But if I can also maybe teach a few things like I like to learn from others as well, then they get to pass those on too. So anyway, that's why I love IHP and that's why I love working with other doctors from all different industries around the world. Okay, so here's the thing though. They had calcium buildup in their arteries, and that, when I look at arterial-based issues of the heart, I take it very seriously because that's the main killer of everybody is cardiovascular-based disease. Essentially 1 out of every 2 people, but it's really higher than that because if you get old enough, you're going to end up with heart-based issues. And so what I look at it is, okay, why do we get inflammation in the arteries? Why do we get calcium buildup? And we start to break it down. Well, here's one of the reasons why that nobody ever thinks about, nobody ever explores. And I love that it's finally becoming more mainstream. So this was written in the American College of Cardiology. So this is like a big deal. And I don't know, this is kind of a long excerpt from it, but basically it says metal exposure linked to calcium buildup in the coronary arteries. All right, so let's explain what this means. You've got the heart in the middle of your chest. Let me see if I can grab my buddy here. And we've got the heart here in the middle, and then you can see the arteries coming out, right? And so what happens is over time, not only can they build up with plaque, they can actually become hardened. And when that happens, it's harder to push the blood through. And eventually the space narrows and narrows until one day there might be a blockage and you have a heart attack, or you begin to overexert yourself and then artery tears, or, again, there's a break off of some of the plaque. So neither one are good. So people, once they start to get to, people like all of us, as you start to get into your later 40s or 50s, you want to do a calcium score test. And the calcium score, this individual, theirs wasn't too bad, but they were concerned. And I agree, they should be concerned because they weren't old by any means. And so it's time to start to work on it. All right. So let me share with you though, one of the reasons why everybody always just thinks about cholesterol, right? And we're starting to learn more about cortisol, which is good, but also there's heavy metals. So researchers measured urinary metals in 6,418 people. They examined non-essential, such as cadmium, tungsten, and uranium, and essential, such as cobalt, cobalt, copper, and zinc. Widespread cadmium, tungsten, uranium, cobalt, copper, and zinc occur from agriculture. All right, I'm going to kind of skip to the good stuff. Tobacco is mainly a big exposure of cadmium, but what they found was that too high, meaning like high levels of metals. Now, this could include aluminum. It could include mercury. It could include others as well. It begins to create more inflammation, calcium buildup in the arteries. And what they found was that there was a 75% higher percentage from exposure over a 10-year period of time. And what happened was that over this period of time, as they were measuring individuals, they could actually see calcium buildup in the arteries. So what they found was a correlation between the more metal they were exposed to, the greater calcium buildup in the arteries. So I think that there's more research needed here, but I can tell you this. When you have elevated levels of heavy metals, you have greater levels of inflammation. Inflammation absolutely affects the arteries. As the arteries become more inflamed, additional plaque can be created and additional calcification can happen as well. So this is one more reason that we need to be on the lookout for heavy metals. I have lots of shows on how to get rid of heavy metals like aluminum pans and getting a water filter, all these great things, getting a believe it or not, an air filter for your house so the dust, because the dust particles can carry microscopic aluminum. All those things are helpful. And of course, if you haven't run your starter kit yet, your Vita-Min Tox Test, definitely do that because you'll be able to see if you have any high levels of metals. Hopefully this was helpful. All the research links and all the lab tests I talked about here today will be at stevencabral.com/3248. Have an amazing weekend coming up, and I'll be back tomorrow with our first Cabral House Call of the weekend. Take care, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning into today's show. Before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I want to make sure that you're getting our daily content, not missing out on anything. Functional medicine, wellness, weight gain, weight loss, anti-aging, living longer, stronger, and all of the most cutting-edge research. And if there's any topics you want to hear, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Take care.